It's Monday the 19th of October, the day that Jose Dominguez scored his first goal for Spurs, and if that isn't a good enough reason to do a podcast, I don't know what is. This is your e-Spurs podcast.
Come on, you Spurs! Come on, you Spurs! Come on, you Spurs! Come on, you Spurs! Tottenham, no one can stop them. We're gonna do it like we did last year. Tottenham, no one can stop them.
Welcome to the show, welcome back to e-Spurs after the international break, or the snooze fest as I like to call it. We record the show each and every Monday throughout the season, as you know by now, and there's multiple ways that you can stay in touch with all things e-Spurs. You can of course follow us on Twitter at @e_Spurs, or get on the Facebook e-Spurs page on there. And new for this season, you can now follow us on Google Plus and YouTube. All of the podcasts go live on YouTube after the show, so you can download the MP4 off of there or watch to your heart's content. The links for those are all quite lengthy, as I always say, so go on the website, check out the links, and they're all there for you. Tonight we'll be looking back at the Klopp Fest at the Lane on Saturday. I'll be asking, has Saturday's performance made Dembele a player we need to keep? And if that wasn't enough, we'll preview a fixture straight out of the Spurs history books as we face Anderlecht on Thursday and next weekend's trip to the South Coast in the Premier League. Before we start talking all things Spurs, once again, it's time for you guys out there to do some listening and get those thinking caps on. You know the deal by now, guys. You're about to hear a clip of a former Spur with just one problem. We've disguised his voice. So see if you can work out who the voice is this week, and then I'll tell you how you can get involved. Here's the clip.
Always had great players. I loved the way they played football. And once I had Tottenham were a definite, that was my main made up.
So that's the Mystery Spur for this week. All you have to do is send your answer via our Twitter or Facebook pages. If sending your answer on Twitter, add the hashtag eSpursVoice before your answer, and we'll read out those correct entries on next week's show. So have a bash at that, guys. On the show this week, I'm pleased to say we've got the eSpurs panel have rejoined me for tonight's show. I'm pleased to say I'm joined by John, Jason and Ricky. How you doing, fellas?
Very well, mate. And you?
Yeah, very good, mate. Very good. All ready to speak about Spurs, as I say, after that international break. Another 2 weeks of international games. We'll come on to that, no doubt, I'm sure, later on in the show. First up, we've got some breaking news, so to speak. We've just heard Nacer Chadli has been ruled out for 4 weeks with a ligament strain. I'm going to come to the lads on that one first up before we get into the Liverpool chat. First up, John, Nacer Chadli, he's played an important role in the team, hasn't he? Do you think it's going to hamper us losing Chadli?
Well, definitely, we lose an option, and already having Son out and Townsend a bit out of sort so far this season, it does leave us a bit lightweight on out wide. I said before, he's been one of them players that's not really stepped up or kicked on like I hoped he would after what was a really, really good season for him last season. So I'm hoping that he'll get this, hopefully he'll come back better and stronger from this injury and he'll really kick on. Because, yeah, if he can be an important part again this season like he was last season, it takes a bit of the burden off of Harry Kane. And he's obviously still an important player. So yeah, hopefully we'll get him back as soon as possible and he can start firing again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jason, last season we saw him score some crackers, didn't we? In pre-season, again, he scored a couple of goals. How much of an impact do you think, John just mentioned there that he links well with Kane. Have we got the players to come in, do you think, to replace Chadli in there?
Well, I think at the moment, as John said, it's the lack of goals, because with Chadli brings you what, 10 or 12 goals a season. We hope that Son would have been fit. Son's now out as well. Kane's not scoring. And G, you don't quite know whether he'll score a goal or not. So we'll certainly miss the option that he gives you to provide goals. But as John said, he hasn't been at his best this season, other than he played very well in that game early on against Stoke. But other than that, he's actually been quite quiet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was watching the game on Saturday and my dad turned around to me and said he's one of those players that has one good game in maybe 4 or 5. Ricky, he's definitely on his day, got it in his locker, isn't he, to damage other teams. In your view, Chadli, or why does he go missing so often, do you think?
I think Andy's a bit of an enigma of a player. I think, like you just said, he's one of these guys that seems to turn up 1 in 5. For me personally, I think he plays better at White Hart Lane than he does away from home. He lets us down, for me personally, away from home from a defensive point of view. But to echo the boys' thoughts, it is a loss in terms of a wing option for us, where we are We don't seem to have too many at the moment. Obviously, there's Townsend as an alternative, Lamella as well. Chadley last season did guarantee us quite a lot of goals, so it's a frustration to not have him available. But again, hopefully he can come back a better and stronger player for us, because he's vitally important to us in terms of the goals he brought to us last season, and we need him to again produce for us this season, because at the moment, in terms of goals, we're fairly short on them.
Yeah, we certainly are, and we'll come on to, again, another point we'll come on to later on in the show. One of my favourite players, certainly Chadley, but the frustration is there that, you can go a game or two without his name, being mentioned. So he's definitely got to step up if he's going to move up that next level for Spurs. But he's certainly got it in his game, hasn't he? I'll tell you what, lads, let's move on to the Liverpool game from Saturday. 0-0 draw at the Lane. As I say, it was a bit of a clop fest, wasn't it? John, first up, was 0-0 a fair result in your eyes?
Well, I think it wouldn't have been other than for two really good goalkeeping displays, I think. Mignolet and Lloris probably both had, their, if not their best game of the season. They're probably, certainly, for Mignolet especially, he was quite busy, but he dealt with everything really well. Lloris didn't have that much to do, really, but dealt with everything spectacularly as always. So you'd probably say we probably had more chances and the better chances, but especially with our recent record with Liverpool, I probably would have took a draw, mate, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they mentioned it enough time, didn't they, before the game, our record against Liverpool. Jason, in the game, Liverpool had their chances, one off the bar, didn't they? We also had ours. Should we be concerned, do you think, the amount of chances they had, bearing in mind the weakened side they put out in attack, especially?
Well, I thought their only real close effort on goal was the one, obviously, that hit the crossbar early on. Other than that, I didn't think they really ever looked like scoring. I was just, the first 20 minutes, I was really disappointed at how we started the game. We seemed very sluggish in that opening 20 minutes. And then from there till half-time, we looked like we'd got a grip on it. And then G had the couple of shots, didn't he? But second half, I just thought we didn't really test Mignolet enough to genuinely deserve to win a game. Other than that save, what was it, in the 80th minute where he turned one round the post? Was it from Kane, I think? Other than that, he was reasonably comfortable in that second half. Too comfortable for my liking, anyway.
Yeah, it was. I mean, as I say, I think a fair result in the end. Ricky, we've mentioned the lack of goals at the top of the show. Should we start becoming concerned, do you think, about Kane's lack of goals this season?
For me, he can bring players into the game. Although there hasn't been a fluency of goals from him this season, he has that great ability of bringing other people into play. And Spurs' issues at the moment is not being able to contribute as a team, not just Kane on his own. And that's something we need to try and address in the coming weeks. And I'm sure that's what Pochettino is working on, because defensively, we look fairly sound. It's just the lack of goals, which is quite alarming at the moment, because at the moment we've drawn 5 out of the first 9. And if you do the maths, if you turn those points into wins, we'd be pushing at the top. So it's something we need to look into, and I'm sure Pochettino will be working with the players on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was a few changes in there, wasn't there, on Saturday in the midfield, with Eric Dyer missing out, and of course the few defensive reshuffles. Danny Rose coming back into the game. John, what did you make of Danny Rose on Saturday?
Well, really busy as always. I actually think he done well. I thought we had a really good game. Yeah, no problems at all.
Yeah, he didn't do too bad at all, did he? I was surprised myself that he missed out a couple of games ago when he did. Davies came in and did absolutely no wrong. Thoroughly deserved his place in there. But Rose offers that something a little bit different, doesn't he? He gives you that burst of pace down the flank that Davies doesn't. And we saw that a few times on Saturday. It'd be good to see that again maybe on Thursday night. Maybe we will. Jason, in terms of the defence, again, another clean sheet. I think I read a stat earlier on now. Here's how sad my life is. Read a stat that said that Spurs are one of only 3 teams now in the league that haven't conceded a goal through a defensive mistake this season. So our defence is certainly one of the best this season. We mentioned a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? We asked the question, have we got the best defence in the Premier League? Are we starting to see signs of that, do you think?
Well, I certainly think Toby's come in and made a huge difference to us. And, he's made Jan look a lot more comfortable. I think Jan now knows that, he has that kind of understanding with him that if I go there, he'll position himself there. So there's none of this having to look out for Kabul charging all over the pitch and getting caught out of position. I think Walker's looks a bit more solid defensively again this year, so that also helps. And they've just brought that element of composure, and they've all upped their game at the back, which is much nicer to see. And when you look at our defensive record, you got to think we scored 2 own goals in that as well. So not too many teams have actually breached us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly going well at the back. John, in terms of our run of results this season, we're now the only team that hasn't lost since the opening day. That, as Jason just mentioned, there was an own goal. Having said that, most of the results have been draws, haven't they? So what would you make in summary of our opening fixtures this season?
Well, defensively sound, as we've already said, but I do think it also highlights the fact that maybe too much pressure is on Harry Kane. Because if we'd have got the odd goal in, say, 3 of those 5 draws, then you're talking about being at the top or second, and that, it can make a difference. I think that's the only thing you can really say so far this season is the fact that not just putting it on Harry Kane's shoulders, because there's 11 men go out there. 10 of them are on the pitch. They have all chipped in. We've had goals come from all different positions. But just not enough, I think. When you're keeping clean sheets, you must capitalise. If we're going to start, if we carry on not letting in, we only need to score 1, don't we? Whereas last season, we needed 2 or 3 with Fazio back there to make sure that we did win. But yeah, I think it's just small margins at the minute, I think, which is stopping us from pushing up the league a bit further. But yeah, can't grumble at all. I think it's been a decent start. And like I said, if when Harry Kane starts scoring again more regularly, which I'm sure he will, then I think we'll be fine. And I think, yeah, it's been a decent start.
Yeah, certainly. As you can't complain at 1 defeat in 8 now. It's not too bad at all, is it? You're not going to argue with that. John, he did have, in fairness, have that chance, didn't he, where he went clean through on the keeper. You'd think that last season he would buried that, wouldn't he? And just that lack of confidence.
Yeah, of course I agree, but I think the reason, in my opinion, the reason why it's not been as much of a problem with England as we've seen recently, although he's not been playing against, he's played against Lithuania, Estonia, teams like that. You're talking about not having as much pressure on him because there's other players in the. He's not like the main man for England like he is for Tottenham, so there's not as much expected of him, which it seems to help when the pressure's not on as much as it is when he's in a Spurs shirt. But there's also other forwards and other options where we haven't got that at Tottenham at the minute. I thought Clinton did all right. He took a little while to warm up. He gave the ball away a couple of times when he came on, and he had that one chance he hit with the outside of his foot. But Kane's just not got the support really. And like as I said, when he's not scoring, if we don't score and that continues to be the case, then this decent run of not losing might end up being a problem when we do concede.
Yeah, let's hope that's not the case, because I'm sure, as you say, once he gets one, the others will follow. Jason, just to finish up on the Liverpool game, I wanted to ask you about this new feature that Sky have got. We noticed, BT Sport have got. We noticed that on Saturday they've apparently got this new feature called Klopp Cam. I just wanted to get your view on that one.
Klopp Cam took up 45 minutes of the game, so yeah, it's a bit hard judging what happened in the game when Klopp Cam's on, and I do worry when they play Chelsea in 2 weeks, because with Klopp Cam and Mourinho Cam, I just don't know what we're going to see on that Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, the game always becomes irrelevant, doesn't it?
Oh, waste of time.
Certainly likes his picture being taken anyway, doesn't he, Klopp? There we go.
Sorry, guys, if I can just jump in on that.
Go for it.
Maybe we should all get together, watch the game again, right? And every time they show him, we have to have a shot, right? I reckon we'd be paralytic by half time, and the two of us would be dead by full time.
At 20 minutes and I'd be under the table. I don't know at half time.
I did wonder if Liverpool had told him to get rid of the cap, though, because, at Dortmund you always saw him with the cap, didn't you?
Certainly the Klopp show, wasn't it, on Saturday? There we go. That's Saturday for you. We asked on our social media, guys, but we always, before the show, put out a question on our Twitter and Facebook accounts. This week we asked about Dembele. The reason being there was a lot of debate after the game about Moussa Dembele. He was awarded the man of the match award in the game. And I just wanted to get your thoughts and the lads' thoughts on Moussa Dembele. There's rumours a couple of weeks ago that a 10 million bid's been accepted for Dembele from Napoli. Whether or not that's true, we don't know. And I just wanted to based on the performance on Saturday, find out what the lads thought. Is he a player we need to keep hold of, or if the right bid came in, would you let him go? Let's first up go to Ricky on that one.
Yeah, so on Dembele, I mean, we can clearly see already that the loss of Dyer, we don't, for me personally, have another defensive midfielder in the squad to cover us apart from Dembele. So just touching on the bid from Napoli, I very much doubt Spurs would have accepted a bid mid-season. Personally, for me, Dembele can play his way back into the team. You know, Dyer's been very, very good at the start of the season. But Dembele on Saturday, I mean, he showed us what he's made of. You know, he covered a lot of ground. For me personally, it was one of his best games in a long time in a Spurs shirt. And I don't think anyone questioned whether he could put that kind of performance in. It was more of a case, can he do that on a consistent basis? And that's been the frustration with Dembele, because when we've seen him come in certain games, he's looked very, very good, but it hasn't been done on a consistent basis, and he's picked up an injury here and there. So what we now need to see from him is a consistent run of form. So the dilemma Pochettino has now on Sunday is that does he drop Dembele after a man-of-the-match performance and put back in Eric Dyer, who has been superb from the start? I mean, personally, it's a nice problem for Pochettino to have. So I think it's a case of just wait and see.
John, next game, next weekend, next Premier League game, if the call was down to you, would you put Dyer back in, or would you stick with Dembele based on that performance?
I would put Dyer back in, but I'd also keep Dembele where he is, because without Chadli and if Son's not back, you'd play probably Lamela, Ericsson and Dele Alli behind Harry Kane. So I think just because of how unlucky we've been just recently with injuries, it probably won't mean that Dembele would have to drop straight out of the team again if Pochettino did want to make that call. It's probably been made a little bit easier for him because of injuries elsewhere in the team.
I mean, it's a good problem to have when he's on form, isn't it? Jason, we mentioned he's similar to Chadli in many ways, isn't he? In that he'll have one good game in maybe 4 or 5. The big concern with Dembele that's been put towards him is his lack of goals. At his stage in his career, has he got it in him now to start becoming a goal-scoring midfielder, do you think? Or are we stuck with the Dembele that we've got?
Well, I don't think he'll ever be a goal-scoring midfielder. I looked up tonight on the Premier League website where they show the whole stats for the players ever since he started. And he's only scored 8 goals in 150 games for Fulham and us in the Premier League. And he's only scored 3 in 88 for us. So, you know, he's definitely never going to be a goal-scoring midfielder. And the worry for us is in those 88 games, he's only got 2 assists. So 3 goals and 2 assists in 88 games. And yet you look at the player and you see him Saturday and he's so comfortable on the ball. He's so strong on the ball. He goes past players. I bet he completes more dribbles for us than any other player. And you just don't know where he should be playing, do you? You think he's got so much technical ability in him that you feel he should be able to play as a number 10, and yet so little goal or so little assist from him, you couldn't play him as a number 10. And I think that's always a conundrum with Dembele. Is he an attacking player? Is he a defensive player? It's so hard to work out what his role is.
Yeah, it's a fair point. And just looking at his stats that you mentioned, Jason, even for Belgium, you know, he's 62 games, only 5 goals. So he's never been as you say, never been a goal-scoring midfielder. I mean, you can think back over history, not just of Spurs, but in football. There's, you know, plenty of great midfielders that haven't necessarily been a goal-scoring midfielder. Do we need him to add goals to his game?
Well, all the time Jason was talking now, I just kept thinking about Luka Modric.
Yeah.
Because in terms of goals and assists, he weren't great. But what Modric did do, I like to call it the pre-assist. Basically, he played that killer ball maybe through the middle or wide, which allowed, you know, 2 to go through together or whatever. So the player he's passed to ends up getting an assist, if you know what I mean. So I think the other problem with Dembele as well, really, is since he came to the club under AVB to start with, we've always played that 4-2-3-1, even at home. And he's always been one of the 2 that has been asked to hold. So if he was given a run of games further forward, I know he started the season there, but only for a couple of games, maybe it would change. But I just think he's one of them players where I think he's a lot more confident. He's more confident in other facets of his game. Goal scoring is never going to be he's never going to be his forte, but he's good at other things. And I think depending on the opposition, Like Liverpool on Saturday, prime example. They first team to out season. A lot of the time they seem to be chasing after Dembele.
Yeah, they did. I mean, he was certainly running rings around the Liverpool players when he got hold of the ball, but he does that so often, doesn't he? You know, he's so good, as we mentioned, at getting past players. Just to read out a couple of the comments, lads, from the social media I'm just looking at there. Higgy Hotspur says, depends on whether it's the Dembele from Saturday or the one we've got used to seeing. So he's sort of echoing what's already been said. Gord Status says he should be gone. He'll be the 5th best central midfield player at Spurs once Mason and Bentaleb are back healthy, and he's a liability at times out on the pitch. Not sure he's a liability. I know his game certainly dips, but
That's a bit harsh.
Yeah, a little bit harsh. Max says, I think he slows the play down, keeps hold of the ball too long, in my opinion. Another point there we'll come back to. I think there's a few players that are worse at that than Dembele, certainly. If you never watched Spurs before, you'd assume he was our best player the first time you watch us. But after a few weeks of watching, you'd realise he doesn't really do that much. One amazing game in 20, the rest are just okay, says George. Phil I Am, nice username there, says keep good backup for Dyer in defensive midfield. Great awareness around him, as strong as an ox, great dribbler. He just needs to feel needed. And the last comment, Peter Smith, says, I get him now. He has great strength, fantastic ability to turn away from players, but no vision in the last third. So really just echoing what we've mentioned there. John, would you agree with the comment that was made that he slows the play down?
I think that's often aimed at him because he doesn't have like electric pace to get away from players. But what he is good at is, he'll keep hold of the ball until the moment's right to release it. I think that's how I see it anyway. Instead of just hacking the ball away, he does hold on to it for a bit, maybe not too long, but longer than most sometimes. But like I say, I think it's only because he tries to do that because he can do it physically and wait for the right pass. I don't think he does it on purpose, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, I think his strength in there and the build of the guy means that he's never going to be a sprinter, is he? But I don't think he slows the play down necessarily.
I think it's just because he's not like a one-touch player, is he?
No.
But a lot of the time, especially like games on Saturday, I think the reason why he stood out is because there was a lot of pressure being put on us by Liverpool in midfield, and he, every time he got the ball, I don't think, what was his passing statistics, like 91%, like 10 out of 10 take-ons, I think it was. 100% interceptions and all. I don't know. I think he gets a bit of a hard time because we just always seem to need a scapegoat for some reason. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think in terms
now, I was going to say, now Eddie Bayer's gone, we need to find another one, don't we? And I think it's just that seems to be what's going on at the minute.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's a few players worse at slowing the game down than Dembele, that's for sure. And I think if he gets a run, gets his confidence up, I like the player that he is. I like that strength he gives us in there, bossing the midfield. I think we lack that, especially when you see last season with the likes of Bentaleb and Mason in midfield. Don't get me wrong, they did a good job in there for their age, but I think sometimes you need that presence as well. You need that physical presence.
Yeah, most definitely, yeah. And if he doesn't go, whether he starts off as 5th choice or not. I mean, Dawson was 5th choice centre-back under AVB and ended up being the captain again, if I remember rightly. So things can change, and it's good for the club and it's good for the squad because it means whoever is in can't rest on their laurels because they know that, a player like Dembele can come in and put in a man of the match performance.
Just on that Dembele point, lads, if I can say, I think what we're finding now is that I believe that the penny may be dropping for him. He's seen Eric Dyer come in since the start of the season. And it's starting now maybe to sink through to Dembele that, I need to take my chance now because Dyer, let's be honest, he's kind of made that defensive midfield role his own. And we all kind of panicked going into Saturday thinking, who's going to be able to fulfil that position. And we're just maybe hoping now that Dembele has got this into his mind now that it really is now do or die time for him because he's been linked away with that move to Napoli, as you've mentioned. He knows that the January window is only a couple of months away now. So for him personally, he's now got to really try and put in a couple of performances, whether that be in the Europa League or used as a backup in the league, possibly for when Dyer returns. So for me personally, hopefully, the penny is now dropping to the player that, it's now or never for him. He really needs to put a performance in if he wants to stay a Tottenham Hotspur player.
Okay, lads, so here's the thing. Of the midfield players currently at Spurs, let's take Dyer for the moment as a midfield player. I'm going to come to Jason first up on this one. If you take Dyer as a midfield player, you're saying our midfield currently consists within the squad of Dyer, Dembele, Dele Alli, Mason and Bentaleb in that deeper lying midfield role, if you like. Of those five, which two would you pick as our strongest two?
For me, at the moment, it is Dembele and Dyer, because as we've said, Dembele, he does have such great technical ability, doesn't he? And he doesn't look as sloppy as Nabil's looked at times. I think he's got more class to him than Mason. I think Ali's probably better off further forward. So for me, Dembele is one of those two. And yet, you still look at Dembele and think, but I want more from him. It is infuriating like that.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, John, would you concur with what Jason's just said there? Would you pick Dembele ahead of Dele Alli?
It's a tough one because Dele Alli's done nothing in deserving to be dropped. Of course, he's been a revelation as far as I'm concerned. But I think it depends. I mean, if there's room for Ali further forward, which long term, obviously, I think that is the plan, there may be. But the fact that Ali's like 8-9 years younger than Dembele, and probably I wouldn't say he's that far behind him in terms of how important. Well, he's certainly been more important so far this season than Dembele to the team. I think it would be a bit harsh. But then again, like Bentaleb's not had a crack yet this season, and he was really good last season. So it's just great for the club to have so many options. I just think with Dembele, it's going to ultimately come down to the fact that Daniel Levy knows he's a 28-year-old whose value is not going to go up. So I personally believe if he gets an offer that's suitable for what Daniel Levy thinks he's worth, then he will go, because he's, like I say, his value's not going to go up anymore, I don't think.
I think as well with that, it's also on Poch's view, isn't it? It doesn't matter on ours. I think Poch doesn't see him as one of those two deep lying ones at his best choice. And therefore, if an offer comes in 12, 13, 14 million, then I think Poch is probably the one who'd say, look, fair enough, I'd sooner let him go and bring somebody else in.
So exactly, yeah. He don't fit, does he, really, with the, the youthfulness going forward. He is like, I think he's, apart from, I think him and Vertonghen are the eldest outfield players, aren't they? Obviously, Vertonghen's very important to us at the moment and has been since he got there. But I just think maybe it'll be his age that counts against him rather than his ability in the long term.
It does. And I mean, lads, where would you say that leaves Bentaleb of the five when you think that Dyer is certainly a shoe-in for that central midfield role at the moment? You've got Dembele, had a great game on Saturday. Dele Alli, who's, pulling up trees this season. Absolutely fantastic to have him in there. You've also got Mason. Where does that leave someone, Ricky, like Nabil Bentaleb, who had a great season last season?
Yeah, I think with Bentaleb generally, towards the end of last season, he became undroppable in the midfield. So there's still an opportunity for him to build his way back into the side. I think what was frustrating at the start of the season with Bentaleb was that the individual error he made against Manchester United. In the centre of the park, he made a few sloppy passes, and I think the fans were getting on him. We have to remember he's still a young kid. He's still learning the game. And again, I repeat it, towards the end of last season, he was one of the main midfielders for Spurs. So there's going to be a lot more opportunities for him to build his way back into the side. We have the Europa League, we have the FA Cup to come. Premier League, we don't know in terms of, like we've seen with Chadley, injuries do come amongst us in the season. So he will for sure get another opportunity. And for me personally, he will build his way back into the side. He's a good kid. He's just signed a new 5-year deal with the club, so he's very much part of the future Pochettino wants to bring to Spurs.
Yeah, certainly looking youthful and bright in that midfield, isn't it? And you think up front, you've got Kane and the likes of Clinton, who we haven't even mentioned, came on Saturday. So it's certainly looking bright in terms of the youth in the squad. Whether or not Dembele goes or stays, only Pochettino, you would think, knows. But he's certainly done his chances no harm based on Saturday, is he? Let us know what you think, guys. As I say, drop us a line on Twitter at @e_Spurs. Let us know whether you think Dembele is worth keeping in there or whether we should let him go if the right offer came along. And we'll read those out on next week's show. We're going to move on, lads, to the weekend and to our midweek game, of course, which is the game's now coming thick and fast after the international break. And as I mentioned, it's a historic fixture on Thursday. You only have to think back, of course, to that famous night at White Hart Lane. Many people say the greatest night ever at White Hart Lane, 1984, the Tony Parks and all that, against Anderlecht. And we faced them, of course, on Thursday night. Just looking up the stats before the podcast as I was on Anderlecht, they're third in their league at the moment. They've had a mixed bag of results in their last five. They won their last game 4-0, drawn a few, and lost one of their last five. So a mixed bag of results. Belgian league, obviously not the strongest league in the world, and you'd have to say they're probably not as strong as the Anderlecht side we faced in 1984. But John, it's one of those Europa League glamour games, isn't it? You know, two historic European teams coming face to face, even without 1984 and all that. What do you think we might see in terms of the side that Pochettino puts out on Thursday?
Well, I think I'd be surprised if he changed it around too much. And also, let's remember that, you know, they lost to Karabag, didn't they, last time out? So we really shouldn't be... Not that I don't want to underestimate them, of course, but I don't think we should be overly concerned, really. I think, as I think I mentioned off air, if we get 6 points from Anderlecht, we're more or less through. So that's really got to be... That's why I think Poch will go pretty strong, because then we can start resting players for the last couple, and it shouldn't get in the way of the league too much. But yeah, I think maybe we'll see changes at fullback, maybe like he done before, and hopefully maybe one or two of the players that have been out, the central midfielders that have been injured, might be ready to come back at least onto the bench. I'd like to see Harry Winks given a chance, maybe Tom Carroll, one of those kind of players, because I know we're saying we've got 5 central midfielders, but you add them 2, that makes 7, and it's a chance for. It's like what happened up front with us last season. The one who's seemingly bottom of the pecking order, if given a chance, can find his way at the top.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, Jason, we mentioned there that if we win, we're almost certainly going to go through. They say around about 9 points is what you need. And then if you think a couple of home games that we've got, we should, in theory, even being Spurs, we should be able to pick up those 9 points. Do you think the fact that us winning almost certainly puts us through might force Poch into playing a stronger side than he normally would?
I think you can see from the way we took the Monaco game the type of side that he'll pick. That if I remember rightly, the Monaco game there was, it was pretty much a full first team, other than I think the 2 fullbacks changed on that night, didn't they, with Trippier and Rose coming in, and it wouldn't surprise me to see those two, the 2 fullbacks change. But I think because of the injuries we've got at the moment, I don't think there's many options for him really, other than as John said, bringing in a Tom Carroll or Winks. Tom Carroll doesn't seem to be getting on the bench as much as Winks, so I worry that Tom Carroll's probably slipped well down Poch's pecking order, but maybe Winks will come in just to freshen it up a little bit.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see. I was looking up the Anderlecht team before the podcast and to see who is in the goals at Anderlecht at the moment. The top scorer at the moment is a guy called Akaka, who's got 6 goals this season. So you'd think, pretty decent striker, until you look at the fact that he's 26 now and has only scored 39 goals throughout his career. So, maybe not the striker to be feared, if you like, but this season he's certainly knocking them in. They also won their last game 4-0 in the league, so they're in pretty good form at the moment. Okaka getting 2 of those goals, so it's going to be a tough one, I think, when you think they're going to be up for it because of 1984 and all that. I'm sure they're going to want to get their revenge on Thursday night. Ricky, do you think a defeat on Thursday will do any damage on our Europa League hopes in the long term?
Well, I think Pochettino wants to get this group sewn up pretty quickly, going by the team selections of the recent games. So I'm thinking he wants to go into these fixtures trying to get us over the line as soon as possible in terms of getting us to top spot. Again, to echo the boys' thoughts, I don't see many changes to the team. I believe he'll probably change the fullbacks over. But as we've also mentioned throughout the show, we have got pretty much a light squad, so he can't rotate the team too much. But I expect him to still go quite full strength on Thursday. And we've got obviously a big game against Bournemouth. So, it's important that, with that bearing in mind, we do keep some of the players rested if we can. But I think personally he'll want to win this group as soon as possible. And therefore, he'll want to put out a stronger 11 as possible if he can.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what you guys think. I'm all for him playing strong side in this one. I think we spoke on the podcast maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago about the Europa League. And I mentioned then that this is, a competition which historically is important to the club. We've got a real chance. One of the competitions that we've got a real chance in, the League Cup's now gone, of course. So let's have a go. Let's play our strong team in there. Let's get another clean sheet. Let's go on a run. And I do agree. I know the panel likes seeing the young lads in there and the Harry Winks coming in and doing the business, and I agree completely with that. I am in favour of playing a strong side out there. So we'll see what he does. And of course, Bournemouth on the Sunday, bearing in mind we play on Thursday in the Europa League. John, do you buy into this Thursday, Sunday having an effect on clubs?
I don't understand the difference between Wednesday and Saturday. You know what I mean? That's my only issue with it. The only time it probably will, well, it could hamper us really, is because I've got no idea why this has happened. But we've got a Monday night game against Aston Villa, and then we play Thursday. So I don't remember that happening too often. But I don't see it makes much difference. You still got a couple of days in between, and it maybe, you know, we should be fresher normally for the European games. You know, because we've got that extra day or two off, not playing on a Tuesday or the Wednesday in the Champions League. But even when we was in the Champions League, I said earlier on, off air, we beat AC Milan 1-0 in the Champions League, and then we lost 3-1 against Blackpool.
Yeah, go figure.
And we then played West Ham, West Brom, and I can't remember, I think it was Wigan, and we didn't win any of them games. But during that run, we knocked AC Milan out of the Champions League. So I just think it depends on, you know, it's easier to get up for games like that, isn't it? I think maybe that's what it is. And hopefully it's just maybe that complacency's been knocked out of the players now, and every game's treated as just as important. I think it's all about mindset, really, because like I say, what difference? It's the same amount of time between games. It's just a different day.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm quite old-fashioned in thinking about this. I think, you know, if you're paid 40, 50 grand to kick a football, you should be able to play with 2 days rest. I don't know about you guys, but you know, I'm sure they can manage it. Jason, Bournemouth have just come off a right hammering at Man City. Should we be wary of a backlash, do you think, or have we got enough in our locker to be able to cope with them?
Well, just before Bournemouth, I'd just like to say, with the Anderlecht game away, just spare a thought for the family of Brian Flanagan, who was the Spurs fan that was shot dead out there in 1984.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think those that remember that cup final, as much as we all remember Tony Parks, there's still some of us that will remember, you know, the unfortunate incident when one of our own fans got shot and killed out there. So, you know, just bear a thought for his family. Bournemouth, they've just come off a real tonking at Manchester City, and they started the season off quite brightly, didn't they, Bournemouth? And they looked like they might be, you know, competitive in the bottom half of the table. And then I think their season's been turned upside down with the leading striker getting the ligament injury. I think they bought a boy from Ipswich, didn't they, who played something like 15 minutes and went over, and he's ruined for the season. And I think their skipper, I saw last week, is now out for 8 or 9 weeks. So, and you do feel with sides like that, you know, if they can get their best side on the pitch, they might be competitive. But once they start picking up injuries to their key players, which their skipper and main striker obviously are, that it will be difficult. I think the big thing for us is just don't show any complacency. If we go there and approach the game in the right way, then we should be able to do the job. But, you know, it's just that complacent element of Tottenham that comes in, and if we start the game slow and sluggish and find ourselves a goal down before we really wake ourselves up. So hopefully if we approach it right, then I'm sure we can go down there and get the win.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hope we do that. As you say, as long as we don't do the Spursy routine and get complacent, it should be all right. I mean, they're looking at their top scorers this season. Without Wilson, Glenn Murray's the next top scorer with only 3. So, Ricky, you would think with that and our defence this season, we should be able to cope with what Bournemouth have to throw at us.
Yeah, I totally agree, Andy. I mean, from our perspective, games like this, we need to be winning. If we've got any slim hopes at all, or aspirations of finishing in the top 4, you know, these are the games that we should be winning. And it's very much like, I think the boys have echoed, is how we approach the game. Again, we know Pochettino will put out a very, very strong team in the league. He always has done. So, you know, the players on the field, I presume, will be of the same calibre that we've fielded all season. So, therefore, hopefully, if we can take the game to Bournemouth and start early on the front foot and play well, we'll get the 3 points. No doubt about it. You know, we're a better team in terms of quality. We just need to show that on the pitch for the full 90 minutes. And I think when you look at it now, this is quite an important game for us, because Spurs generally, this season, we've been under the radar, which I think a few of us kind of like the fact that we're under the radar. No one's really kind of paying attention to Spurs. You know, we're bobbing along. You know, Liverpool at the moment are in the spotlight because of the Klopp frenzy. But for Spurs generally, we're ticking along nicely. And a win here would really kind of put us amongst those clutcher, you know, teams amongst the top. Because at the moment we've drawn 5 out of the 9 games this season, and we really need to start turning these draws into wins. Because if we can do that, we'll be a very, very good side this season. So, very important game, and we need to go there looking for the 3 points. Well
said. And with that in mind, let's get some predictions from the lads as we finish up on the on the games for next week. Let's first of all, I tell you what, let's go to John. What we'll do this week is we'll get predictions for both of the games. So let's go for Anderlecht and Bournemouth.
I'm going to go away. We'll win at Anderlecht 2-1. And Bournemouth, I think it all depends. I mean, like Jason said, they've lost Callum Wilson. Max Gradle was their big summer signing. He's injured. Tyrone Mings he's injured as well. And they're pretty much a championship squad now, aren't they, really, without them guys? I think it depends. If we get off to a good start, you could be talking maybe 3-0. So I'm going to go 2-1 to Tottenham at Anderlecht and 3-0 to Tottenham at Bournemouth.
A nice conservative 3-0 then. You have to say, while we're talking about Bournemouth, what a great job Eddie Howe's done, bringing that club up. Absolutely sensational. Jason, your view on Bournemouth and Anderlecht?
Well, I'll join the 2-1 away win at Anderlecht, and I'll go 2-0 at Bournemouth.
Let's finally get Ricky's view.
I'm going to try and carry on the positive trend, lads. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win away at Anderlecht, and I think we'll beat Bournemouth 3-1.
I like it. So we're saying that by this time next week we'll have another 2 wins under our belt. So if anyone's a betting person out there, put a bet on us to lose both. That's the e-Spurs predictions for this week.
Well, I would just say if our predictions were right every week, we'd win the league.
Yeah,
we're never going to say
millionaires by now.
But we do make better predictions than Paul Merson does.
Listen, my rabbit outside makes better predictions than Paul Merson. Listen, lads, it's been a great show as always. 2 big games coming up. Another reason to get excited about the Spurs. Let's hope, as I say, this time next week we've got 2 wins to talk about. And we'll be back next Monday after the Bournemouth game. Don't forget, guys, check us out on Twitter at @e_Spurs, on the Facebook e-Spurs page, or one word. And if you want to connect with the lads out there, just check out the e-Spurs Twitter, and there's links to the 3 that you're listening to on the podcast tonight. You can get in touch with them via Twitter and have your say on the podcast. If you want to pick them up on any points that they've made on the show tonight, do so. Get involved with the show, guys. That's what we want. Other than that, guys, we'll speak to you next Sunday. Have a great week, and as always, come on, you Spurs.